All right, all right. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's about that time. It's about time for the feedback loop. Another edition on this snowy, wintry day here in Chicago. So glad to have you along. I know you're chiming in from all over the planet. We've got Israel checking in. We've got Orlando checking in. We've got New York checking in. Into the submission queue this morning. And it's been a really interesting week. Today presents some unique challenges. Rebecca is back. Welcome back, Rebecca. And she is, Rebecca's in an interesting spot because she's overseas, looking at remote gigs, working freelance. Like she's had a few projects now, and we've kind of seen some of those projects in the feedback loop if you've watched the recent episodes. But just because you're doing freelance doesn't mean that you always want to do freelance. So she's also, at the same time as she's doing these freelance projects, Knife Doctor is her latest, she's working through a job search. And I wanted to just kind of jump in and take a look at a couple things. She's got some questions here. She's applying to jobs that are really on different levels from one another, and I wanted to try to take a peek into that because so much of, whether this is fair or not, so much of what you apply to for your next full-time job, it trails back to what have you been doing, what have you done recently, and it's very hard to move in two directions at the same time. Sometimes you can do that, particularly when you've got like a big wind. If you've like Tejal, for instance, Tejal has this new award that she won on a recent project, and when you've got an award in your hand, it gives you the ability to move in an unexpected direction. Okay. And those unexpected directions come along every so often, okay? But when you don't have that flag to plant in the ground and go, yeah, I've been recognized for X, it's much harder to move in two directions at the same time. It's harder for employers to want to travel with you down that road. So I want to take a look at the two things, the two types of jobs you're looking at, Rebecca. And you just here just a second ago sent over the links for the different resumes that you're using, which, by the way, is smart. We're also going to look at Kara's work, and then Tejal, who I was just referencing. She's pushed over some more changes to her portfolio. We were talking yesterday about her user personas, and she's moving into some other areas today as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's go ahead and get started. It's strange because my email keeps just popping up. Let's pull this all together, folks. Where did my Figma file go? Okay, well we'll get Figma up here. There we go. So now we've got Figma, and well, that explains everything. It's not maximized, so Figma needs its own space. And then we'll also come over here, because this is where Rebecca is going through, and she's kind of looking at these different roles, and I've got them pulled up. So one here is point click care. It's a product owner. It's a remote gig, which is good. I think you're going to see a lot of remote gigs start posting very soon. Particularly for our industry, any industry where you do not have to be in person, I think that you're going to see a big shift to remote. And it's all spurred, you've guessed it, by the coronavirus. There's going to be a push to not congregate together. And this is very good. If you're wanting to get into the remote workspace, this is a great time to do it, because we're going to see companies beginning to push their people out to maintain productivity, and because it's going to offer a really interesting opportunity for remote to prove itself. So again, point click care is remote. I don't know much about this company. It does say that they have a product that's used to manage medications for over 200,000 residents living in senior living facilities or group homes. Um, what's interesting to me is like this product owner is, it seems like a really core person on their team. And I just kind of want to look this company up a little more so I can understand a little better of what they are. So they were founded in '95, so they're not a startup or anything. Um, okay, and let's just look at their career page. Um, Meaningful impact on lives of millions. Okay, and okay, I feel good about that. That looks like a relatively young group. Let's look at their locations. Just trying to grab a little more understanding about them. So they're Canada, they're U.S. Okay, so and they have this remote gig. So because of their size, I'm a little less worried about this being like, oh my God, this has to be like the pivotal hire that we make. If we don't make the right hire right here, right now, the company breaks. So that this is not that, which was my first concern when I saw this, because there is a unique qualifier here, and it is this is successful track record for bringing mobile applications, web apps, and software products to market. That's not the unique qualifier. Lots of people have done that. It's this one. Experience with EMR or pharmacy dispensing systems is preferred. If you're coming in cold and you've got experience here, but you don't have hit after hit after hit, that's going to be a knock. But this one right here, it's medical related, okay? And when you're applying for positions that have a medical component, I've had students that get these sorts of jobs. They are coming from nursing backgrounds, or they're coming from pharmacy backgrounds. They are disproportionately wanting career changers in these roles that have experience in that field. So I know the students that would get this job. They're coming from they're former pharmacists that have burned out out of being a pharmacist, or they're a former nurse that is burned out of being a nurse. They have some sort of medical background, and I've seen them. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head that match up with this. So when we look at your resume, and I'm going to come over here to your resume really fast. Let's forget about this for a second. Doesn't matter. Let's go right down to here. So, product designer, strategist, senior buyer. I don't see medical in here. Okay, and I know it says preferred, but it's medicine, and medicine is it's just at a higher threshold than the other industries that you could go into. There's a high amount of regulation there, and anything that they can do to get the talent to do the job that also has that experience, they're gonna trend toward that. So that's my 2 cents on that. I don't, I really don't think that this portion, this UX designer for Block, I don't think that's adding anything. I think that the quicker you can go independent UX product designer or freelance UX product designer, I think when you go from this, what this says, follow with me, what this says is, I was a lead and then I went solo. That's all it says. Now, as you as you read further into it, obviously you went more than solo because you were already solo here, because this is business owner, founder, customer, supplier relations. I do like the positioning of this model better. It talks about what you do. It's much harder to wrap my head around what you do as a business owner, because you just kind of you have to do it all. You have to do it all. So here, when you're applying for product and design jobs, I like the positioning here. I care less about the fact that you were a founder. Okay. Now, there are times when that founder thing comes in, like here, Vice President Retail CPG Management Consulting. This is a big gig. I'm not sure. I'm just going to search for remote. Okay, so it says U.S. remote location, so you could be remote. When it's a consulting gig, I expect there to be a lot of travel. So what they are expecting here is you're going to be remote from the United States. And I know you're in Israel. I know you have the ability to work in the United States, but this is a consulting gig. This is like a McKinsey gig. And McKinsey, they're going to expect you to be on the road every week. Okay? And if you're on the road every week, that's fine. They're thinking they're flying you from Austin to go to Denver. They're not thinking they're flying you from Tel Aviv to go to Denver. So immediately, the moment they're peeling through and they get a whiff of, the idea that you're not in the United States, which is what this would tell me right away. It's like, wait, 97258. What type of phone number is that? And then they dig in, they see that, oh, you're not really here. That would be a disqualifier for a position like this. And that's before we get down to minimum of 15 years experience. They have a very high threshold that they're looking for with this gig. So MBA, business, economics, engineering undergraduate degree, MBA preferred. So, it's high level of education plus 15 years experience, plus the fact that you're not located in the U.S. for that weekly travel. Yes, it's remote, but it's remote because you're never in that office. You're in somebody else's office. That's what I see here with this management consulting. So here we have VP of Marketing. Way to VAT. Is this like value-added tax? I'm going to have to Google this one too because I'm curious. Some of the positions I can kind of get to the bottom of just by, when it says management consulting, I'm like, oh, okay, this is this is financial tech. Okay. Automated modular solution for VAT reclaim and expense management based on an AI proprietary technology. All right, so this is interesting. This is also a relatively small company, 2015, Series A, 11 to 50 people. Okay, all right. So this is startup land. I like startup land. Let's see here. What are the criteria for the requirements? 10 years of experience in a similar position in a SaaS B2B technology organization. Yeah, okay. Proven track record, scaling, experience overseeing lead gen efforts, paid, local owned and earned media, experience working small and large enterprise customers, brand identity, SEO, knowledge of PR. Boy, they're looking for a lot here. Just kind of moves all over the place. Bachelor degree required, MBA highly preferred. So experience working in European market. So what I'm seeing here, Rebecca, is again it comes back down to education requirement, That's going to be an issue. Um, we are 10 plus years of experience in a similar position. So you've made the molds and you shipped the molds and whatnot, but that was not a here is a SaaS B2B technological solution for anything. Okay, I think that you'd have to at least be in a company that sold software of some type to another company that was utilized for business operations. And you were very much B2C, where you had a business and you sold directly to the customer, or you sold products that another company sold to the customer. The things that you were selling ended up in the hands of a customer. So that's what I'm seeing here in this VP marketing job is it's probably not in the alignment of what you're, what this sets you up to be. And I know it says B2B B2C communications manager, but that is not the piece where you're building a technological solution that's going to then be handed off. Let's look at this last one, SodaStream. And I know we've looked at SodaStream before. So, okay, so this one should be a little more in your wheelhouse. UX, UI designer, or UI, UX designer, awesome e-commerce, direct-to-consumer team. Sorry. Design world-class experiences, visual design concepts, web, mobile. Okay, let's go down the requirements. 4 years of experience designing for web, mobile e-commerce, proven experience on graphic design or prototyping software, responsive design, English. Yeah, so this, of the ones that I've seen, this seems like it would be the closest to your wheelhouse. The question I have often with these is, when was it posted? And I don't see when it was posted. So, immediately my worry here is that this is a post that they keep up, and it's just meant to collect leads in case a good one comes along. But they're not they don't have a high requirement to go fill it. Yeah, I mean, this seems like a position where you should at least get a call back, based on what you have. I do think that I would lead with this setup. I would not lead with the founder, head of sales, salesman. Like, I think this, this sets up a lot closer to what reality really is. Although here, the UX designer block, I think you could roll up. This into, independent UX product designer, and then combine a lot of this information together. I don't think that block as a thing does much for you. It's an education platform, which is fine, but it's not something that people are like, well, where did your product go? And we would say, well, these were things that went to, these were in-house prototypes that I worked with a mentor on, whatever. What we can talk about here is, well, who were these products for? Well, I worked with clients, and these clients were trying to push their individual business needs forward. Some of them were very, they're very small operations. Some of them were a little larger. You can talk to this while talking about these things if you just combine these together. Here, if they talk about block specifically, you have to just kind of out that as like, oh, well, this was just a remote school thing that I did. Where what we're doing right now, what we've been doing, we've been going back and forth on, yeah, well, how do we do that Hebrew translation for your client? How do we edit the copy for this homepage for your client? Okay, this is very work related, and you're leaning on me for advice for what to do with a client, and that means that you're doing work with clients. Yes, you have a mentor. Hi, that's me. But we can talk about what you're doing with clients and the fact that you're doing user research and the fact that you're writing content and doing content strategy, and you're doing all these things. You're wireframing. You're doing all these things that you were doing as a student before, but now you're doing them in the context of, hey, I'm a UX designer. I'm a product designer. I would change the date. I would say 2018 to 2020, and I would just lump this in with that, because you can point to things that are either in progress or released that went out to the world for a client. Okay, so that's how I would repackage this. I'd really like this more. I would say business focused UX strategy, or business focused UX strategist. Product and experience designer. So I don't know, UX strategy product designer. There's a way to clean that up. I don't like the designers are not the users. It's like I'm gonna tell you what I do, and then I'm gonna slap a slogan in there. It just feels weird. Let's continue going over. UX architect, and that's fine too, I guess. It's less weird than this, which is, just slogany. I don't know. It's that part's not great, but this part's great. Like, I love this. This is not so much. And I think it's because it has this chest puffing business owner, and that may be true, but you're focused on design jobs, okay? And yeah, if you're applying for a VP role, I could see you wanting to do this business owner thing, but those VP roles want 15 years of experience, and they want, like, I really think that you've had to have great success. Silicandy has to be something that you knocked out of the park and you sold it for $4 million. Then you went and applied for a business VP role because you just wanted to do something different with your time while you counted your money. I don't know why anybody with that makeup would apply for that VP management consulting role, but that's what I see. Okay, I really like this setup. I would edit this to combine the two. But I like this more so than that. And that's my 2 cents on it. I really think that that overall, a company like, you should expect a call back from a company like SodaStream. And I understand if you didn't get one. Okay, I understand if you didn't get one. There's nothing saying that every company that you should get a call back from, you're going to get a call back from. But of the 4 postings you showed me, the first one was, I can see anything with medical being dicey. The second one was they really want an MBA and they want you to have 15 years experience. The third one was they really want you to have an MBA too, and they want you to have 10 years of experience, and in a specific niche, B2B, and B2B business, technical solution for a B2B business. And then the third one is like, are you a UX designer? Or the fourth one. So the fourth one, of those 4, the fourth one was the only one that I would have went, that's weird you didn't get a call back for that one. So of 75% of them, I wouldn't have expected to get a call back for 3 of the 4. But the fourth one, I would have expected to get a call back. And as I said a minute ago, I really do believe that this is the year where remote becomes a thing. And it's not because people wanted it to become a thing. It's because a damn crisis is emerging, and it's either we're going to shut down and not work for months on end, or we're going to work remotely, separate from one another, so we don't spread this illness around. And I really think that companies are going to go, well, we're not shutting down. We can't just not make money. And that's going to push people to go remote. So that's my 2 cents. I know, Rebecca, we have a call later today, so we can go in deeper on that. But I wanted to give you my thoughts on this before we have that call. All right, and I'm glad you submitted these questions this morning, because I think that you can distill this information for a bit and probably come back with some deeper questions, okay, about what the next steps are. But we will push forward now. And I want to check general. Looks like, yeah, boy, I tell you what, you folks are gobbling down. I mean, gobbling down the views. Every day when it posts, it's like, we're moving at a clip where it seems to increase every single day. So kudos and thank you for tuning in. All right, so I'm going to move over here to Kara's submission here for a second. And Kara is in the realm of information design. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love what Kara's done. So Kara, we had a call the other day, and she's resubmitting this for review, but she color coded the laws as she went through. So like, she went through and said, okay, well, this whole thing is proximity, and really it is and it isn't. It's like, it's actually not, the entire page here isn't proximity, but each section is proximity. The law of proximity, the law that says the things that are organized together are by proximity related. So all of this stuff is organized together, so it's related. All of this stuff is organized together, so it's related. So that's the law of proximity. The law of similarity. Similarity is like, these items are all the same, so they are related because they are similar in shape and size and design. Then there's the law of the law of symmetry. If you go right down the middle here, this is all very symmetrical. Each side is even. The law of continuity is interesting, because I agree in most cases, but there's an issue I have. So I really believe that the law of continuity says if I click on this button, it's going to take me somewhere, and whatever's on the other side of it is related to what I just clicked. That is the continuity. Like, I click this and it takes me somewhere. I don't necessarily know if I get the same feeling here. I do get the feeling like if I were to click on one of these, it would take me somewhere that's related to this. I could say the same thing here. It's like, when I click on this button, it's going to take me somewhere related. Same thing for up here. Like, that law of continuity, in my expectation, I'm not going to end up somewhere where I'm like, how the hell did I get here? So the continuity is there. And figure ground. Figure ground, obviously this is content that's on top of the image. The content's in front, the image is in back. It's a little less figure ground than most instances where you think figure ground, but it's still pretty good. This is a whole lot of symmetry, a whole lot of similarity. Like, this is all similar. She's also not marked the similarity here on the nav bars, which was missing up here, but that's reality. And then continuity, like if I click on any of these links, like neckwear, I can guess that it's going to like then filter everything down to be neckwear. So again, I absolutely loved the fact that she went through and put this together. The way that she did, I thought it was a very smart illustration of the properties, because it'd be very easy to say, yes, these are all present, but the fact that she took it an extra step, and I really appreciated that. Over here, I thought she did a really good job of utilizing the space provided to organize the information, and not only that, she took the time to look at the content that was presented, and she was presented album cover of Metric, Rush, and The Weeknd, but the information over here to the right was all out of order, but she still married it together properly. That's so core for any sort of presentation that you do or any prototype that you do. The content can't distract the person from what you're actually trying to execute on. So if you have real content, it needs to make sense. It can't just be kind of like, well, I just kind of smashed up this stuff and I put it in there because it's just holding space. Even if it's just holding space, it has to make sense. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to distract the person. This, we kind of talked about it. This is really, it's pretty good for what it is. You could go through and kind of stretch this out, but notice that it like gets all wonky. And Kara and I were talking about this. This is really where the concept of constraints come in. So if we were to group all of these things together and then say, yeah, and you know what? You're going to be constrained to the top, all right? And this album is also going to be constrained to the top. When I pull, it's going to hold that information right in place. If I flip this to the bottom, and then I go and I change the size of this frame, it naturally pulls with it to the bottom. So that's something that I think is very interesting. And if I were to grab both of these and I say, hey, you're just in the center, that happens, and it's even on both sides. And it's very much like Flexbox. I just kind of wanted to touch on that for a moment while we're here together, because I do think that constraints is something that throws people off. They're not quite sure how to use it. And as we go, I like to sprinkle in a few different uses for it, especially when it comes to resizing elements. Final note over here, Kara. So the challenge here was to take the Figma homepage and add a tutorial section in it that would push people to go view these Figma tutorials. Now, they could be tutorials from everybody. Of course, I put moi in there because I just wanted you to look at my chubby little bald head. But that said, what Kara did that was super smart was she came back and said, hey, you know what? This needs a label and a headline, and it needs these images, and you need to have information with it, which she, by the way, edited down. She edited that information down. And it needs a button because it's meant to be like these, which look like exactly like that, okay? But she didn't have the space she needed. She didn't have the space. She has roughly 30% more space now. But she reached out and she said, can I adjust the space larger here? To make this right, it just needs to be deeper. And, of course, I said, yeah. Yeah, sure. That's not a big deal. Too often, I see designers, and they just kind of cram everything in. Or, worse, they don't even bother to they try to cram all of these into this space, into the smaller version of the space. And you have to be willing to say, hey, you know what? A, I'm going to edit this down because that I like putting 8 videos in here is just stupid. But B, to do this right, I need more space. Hey, Chris, can I have more space? I need you to do that same thing in a professional environment. Hey, can I have a word with you? Yeah, I think we really need more space here. You got to have that conversation. You cannot count on somebody, quote, giving you the space that you need. You need to, some of you will just step out and just take it and just like, yeah, I need more space. But you should have a conversation around it. okay? Because there may be a reason why we can't have more space because we gotta keep this short for whatever reason. Um, so we let's edit tighter, but that's a conversation that you have, okay? So if you get nothing else from this, have conversations around the space, around the things that you need to do your job well, okay? So Kara, as always, crushing it. Let's move on. And also, Kara had a question about size of type, and I found this to be really interesting from Uber. Uber has a base gallery that has, like, literally, if I zoom out, they have all the Uber material, everything that you need to build a Uber prototype, you have available to you in Figma, and this is base. But if you look here, Kara had a question about what size is the typography in a mobile app, and Uber actually has an accessibility scale that they've put together, and it shows you that when at the standard size, which is considered medium, a label and a paragraph will be 16 on 24 inside of the Uber app. Okay, and this is following that concept of it follows pretty closely to the concept of eights. So 8, 16, 24. As you go up, you get eventually to the 24, but they have breakdowns in between. It's 20, it's 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24. The thing that's interesting is if you watch the display label, like if it's set at extra small, it's 40. If it's set at super extra super large, 5x large, it's 60. But that's as high as it goes. You notice that things like heading that go from 18, they'll also peak out at 60. And this is simply saying that if somebody's went into their accessibility controls on their phone and they've turned them all the way up, the largest the type is ever going to be is 60. Paragraphs will be 44, and that is going to be massive. But you've got to design with that in mind, okay? People have control, or should have control, over the type and the way it displays back to them on their phones. So you can't say, well, I'm going to lock it in here at, 14 point or 16 point because that's the way it should be. You have to understand that, people are going to do crazy things and they're going to kick up the size of the type. And that's why you have to be flexible in your designs. And we talk about this in information design about what information can go next to the other information because, variable content, it grows and shrinks in size, but you also have this to think about, and if you put an album next to a artist name and then somebody goes in and futzes with the size, you need to make sure it grows vertically so that it doesn't just kind of break off the side of the screen. So just a couple of things I want to mention there. This is in the base gallery. I'll be passing out links to it. It's in the curriculum. There's actually an entire exercise just using this base gallery. So let's go back over and take a peek at Tejel's project. I know that she's so good about having everything just all sewn up here in VS Code. So I'm just gonna go directly there, and let's check this out. Get status. Okay, so it says I made some updates yesterday, but I did not push those because we were really just experimenting and kind of playing around there. So I'm gonna git pull origin master. And minor updates today. So let's go ahead and look at, let's see here. You've got idea board discovery section. How do I make the image of the cloud apps center vertically? Let's go to idea board and take a look at that. image of the cloud app. So I'm going to say cloud. Oh, this. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay, so you've got content. Okay, so if I said, I bet you've put, okay, I'm going to say display flex, align items, center. Okay, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I'm actually going to move up a level, and I'm going to put it on this. So I'm going to say display flex, align items center. And what I've done, and I know that seems like just stupid simple, but here's what I've done. So you've got this figure class of no mobile, okay? And it's got images inside of it, but it's really just targeting the class. You've also got this content call 3 left, and I'm not really completely sure what's going on there. Like I'm just not sure. Okay. But let's pretend for a second that like none of that stuff's there. It's still vertical, and the reason it's vertical is because I put this display flex on the 2 call left dark gray non-mobile. Like there's this div in the div and div whatever. The parent element is this. The child element is that, and display flex is saying whatever is the child of this section, which is 2 call left, whatever is the child of this div, put flex on it and center it. And that's what we've done. It's centered. If I close this, it'll remain centered. Obviously, you have you have a good, let's see here. You had this margin top of 3, and I don't think that does anything. I don't think you need the red either. Yeah, you didn't actually have a whole lot on there. But and I don't think you need the margin top either because, you're centered now. But long story short, that's how I would handle it. I could see if you wanted it to be slightly smaller than this. Although you've got, I think, okay, no, that's not type that's in there. It's type that's attached to the image, so that's fine. That's how I would handle that. And I can see where the issue is there. So I would do flex on this column, and then I'd move forward from there. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So you've got okay, so CTA. Basically just 2 styles on the whole side. A CTA button, a main CTA button, and an outlined button. So let's go to the home page. Let's take a look at this outlined button. Again, that's super sharp, like that hero. Yeah, I see the outlined button. We're talking about this. And okay, so it's like you've decided to go away from you had the red button before, so now you're streamlining it. Hey, look at that. That looks great. That looks great. I had not seen that. We talked about this yesterday. Did a good job there. Those look fantastic. That's solid work, kid. You should be happy with that. Competitive analysis. Yeah, this is really come along well. Information architecture. And then you've got this one. I'm just kind of going through looking at the rest of your CTAs. I really liked the Boulder CTA, but I mean here the if nothing else, here's what I really liked. I think about it is when you came down here and you talked about you know now obviously 2 rem is too big, but it's really about the size of the typography for me. Like the way that it is right now, that's pretty small. It's hard to read. I know I can see that there's a button there, but and also there's no feedback to it. Like if I hover over it, I would expect for it to like change color or at least on the home page. While I'm not crazy about the grow thing here, at least it does. It has some interactivity. Oh, it looks like should I make the hero units? So that's a great question. You're in here in this case study, and you're like, should I make this like that? And I don't necessarily think that that's the right answer. I don't mind this. I do wonder if when you hover over it, the red just kind of like this isn't even the same color red, so the red kind of comes out of left field at this point. Like it might have been a thing at some point, but it's now when I look through, I'm trying to find. You've changed the red. It's now more of this salmon color, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think the red belongs anymore. So I wouldn't use the quote red. If anything, I might come back to the salmon, or I might go with the outline. I might go with this outline at a larger size, like for the typography, and then have it go to blue, because the blue is here, and it's widely used. So that's my 2 cents on that. Let's see here. You've got some other stuff though. Mobile. So I just want to take a look at this in mobile. Yeah, it's just a skeleton from the past. Yeah, you know what's going on there. You're super bright. I don't have any worries there. Okay, so here we are. How do you separate hero CTA from others? I would just probably add if being that the hero CTA only appears once per page. I mean, I just have a class. I just call it hero CTA and move forward that way. Looking at this, I would style up idea board. I would go larger with all of your H1s for the homepage, for the hero units. Bergen's the same way. I would go larger with this. Look out for little. That was weird. Sorry. Not sure. Yeah, there we go. Look out for small items like this where you've got one margin and then it comes in and everything's just off. So there's that. Yeah, and you can kind of see it really here. Like the margin is, it goes in and it comes back out. So that's an issue. Design tools. Here it's fine. That's nice. Yeah, I would try to probably soak up some of this space too. Um, half of it. I do want to look at this in not mobile context to see if I'm, yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of space even here, so I would try to soak up some of that. I know that you were too tight above it yesterday, but now we're too tight. We're too loose below it, and it really shows up in mobile. But I would do that. I would soak up this. I would soak up that across the board, and then I would watch out for, you know, these little. And I think this is here. Yeah, it's like it's a minor adjustment for padding or margin here on the like overview, and then it carries over, and you can really see it in mobile. So like that's a couple of things. I would adjust this type size to be stronger in mobile. I would adjust this margin to be to align. I would soak up some of the space below the icons, um, and then I think we can revisit that as well. But I would, when it comes time to talk about these buttons, I might have a transitional color um, in there, and basically move forward like that. But overall, this is really coming along. I think you've done a lot of work. Again, this is just Flexbox, align items, center, and I think you're off and running. So that is all I have for this edition of the feedback loop. Um, we do this Monday through Friday, um, every day of the week. Some mornings we start a little later. We were trying to get those resumes out, and so we could take a closer look at those. I really do like taking the time to dig into your work in between our meetings, because I feel like that's the quickest way that we can catapult you further. Um, Tedgel, you have a handful of things to work on with regard to your portfolio, but great job on that. Those user personas look fire. I love them. I absolutely love them. And Rebecca, I think that it is about right sizing, and I think your resume is close. It's like a merger of the two. But I really feel like some of those spots that you're aiming for are just like you don't have you don't have the alignment for it based on what they want. You may have the alignment for it based on what you know that you did in that product owner role. But sometimes it's like if I just would stay away from medical unless you have that medical background. And then anytime you're looking at somebody that's saying we want somebody with 15 years experience, they have a particular candidate in mind, and it's typically not anybody under the age of 40. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the feedback loop. I will chat with all of you again tomorrow. Take care.